Before we begin, please imagine the bell notification is on and you're subscribed to Huna Stories. I didn't recognize her at first, not because of how she looked, but because of where she was, lying against the base of a tree, as if the forest itself had placed her there. For a fraction of a second, my brain refused the image. It tried to file it under something else, a stranger, a trick of light. Then I saw her jacket, mud-stained, unmistakable. Everything inside me lurched forward at once. Panic, disbelief, a terror so sharp it felt almost chemical. Her breathing was shallow, unsteady, but there I dropped beside her, hands hovering uselessly before finally settling on her shoulders, afraid that any movement might fracture something invisible. Her eyelids fluttered, barely. She whispered. The words scraped out of her throat like they had weight. My mother-in-law. For a moment, the sentence didn't make sense, language arriving without structure. She said, "My blood was dirty." The forest was silent in that peculiar, oppressive way nature sometimes becomes when your entire internal world is collapsing. I remember nodding, not because I understood, but because she needed me to. "I am here," I said quietly. My voice didn't sound like my own. The drive home blurred into fragments, the tight grip of my hands on the wheel, the unnatural stillness of her body in the passenger seat, the constant monitoring of her breathing like a metronome determining reality. Alive. Still alive. At the house, instinct took over in practical motions. Blankets, water, my phone already in my hand before conscious thought caught up. Emergency services. Clear voice, precise address, no hysteria. Shock has a strange way of creating temporary competence. While we waited, my daughter drifted in and out of awareness. Each small movement, each shallow breath carried unbearable significance. And beneath the fear, something darker began forming. Not rage, not yet. Something colder, calculation without clarity. My phone screen glowed in my calm. Without fully deciding to, I opened my messages. My brother's name sat near the top. There are relationships that function less like connections and more like reflexes, certain names that exist as extensions of thought itself. I typed, then stopped, deleted, typed again. "It's our turn." The phrase appeared disturbingly natural. Time for what Grandpa taught us. I stared at the words. They looked foreign, like something written by someone standing slightly behind me. Grandpa. His lessons had always been framed as strength, self-reliance, protection, but memory under stress has a way of selectively editing context. My thumb hovered over the send button. The house felt unnaturally quiet. Then my daughter coughed weakly, a small, fragile sound that shattered whatever narrative my mind had begun constructing. This was not a story about retribution. This was a medical emergency. I locked the phone, set it face down. When the paramedics arrived, their presence altered the atmosphere instantly. Calm voices, controlled movements, neutral efficiency, authority without emotion. They asked questions I struggled to answer. How long had she been there? Did she lose consciousness? Was anyone else involved? The words mother-in-law felt strangely heavy in my mouth, not because of disbelief, but because of implication. Hospitals have a way of imposing procedural reality on emotional chaos. Tests, vitals, documentation, forms. By the time a uniformed officer entered the room, my internal world had already shifted from panic into something more unstable, uncertainty. "I'll need to ask a few questions," he said gently. His tone carried neither suspicion nor sympathy, only the steady neutrality of someone tasked with assembling facts from fragments. I answered carefully, measured. My daughter slept. Machines hummed softly. "She accused your mother-in-law directly?" he asked. "Yes." "Did your daughter explain what happened?" "Not fully." The officer nodded, taking notes. Reality advancing at its slow, indifferent pace. In the hallway. Later, my phone buzzed. My brother. A single message. "What do you mean?" I realized with a small jolt that I had never sent anything, yet the words I hadn't transmitted now existed inside someone else's expectation. I typed a new reply, then hesitated. "What Grandpa taught us?" What had he actually taught us? Strength or reaction? Protection or escalation? Finally, I wrote, nothing. Wrong message. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. No further response. That night, sitting beside my daughter's hospital bed, exhaustion settled into my bones with an unfamiliar heaviness. Anger remained, but certainty, that intoxicating, dangerous clarity, had quietly evaporated. Investigations would follow. Statements, evidence, processes designed to move slower than emotion. Justice, I was learning, is rarely aligned with instinct, and revenge, however seductive in moments of terror, carries its own irreversible gravity. My daughter stirred slightly, breathing steady now, alive, still alive. I took her hand gently, feeling the fragile warmth of it, and stared at the dim hospital lights reflecting off the polished floor. There are harms you cannot undo, only responses you must live with. By morning, nothing felt resolved, only suspended, only uncertain, and disturbingly, painfully uneven.